So nervous. Drink some water. Okay, I can do this. Jesus, give me strength. Okay. Hey guys, today I'm going to be telling all of you my testimony. I always feel like it's a good way to get to know someone when I start watching someone new on YouTube. If they have a testimony, I always listen to it. It's always so interesting how people come to God. Maybe they never grew up knowing God, or they always had God in their home like me. It's always so interesting to me to hear about people's lives and how God really is good. When people give their life to Jesus, I don't think anyone ever regrets it. You shouldn't regret it. I don't I wouldn't. So, yeah, I'm going to keep babbling, so I will just get into this. I'll start off with my childhood and kind of how I grew up. I grew up on a farm, lots of field work, lots of playing in the summer, but a lot of hard work, like in the fields, and picking tomatoes or cucumbers or blueberries. I am thankful that I did that because I learned a lot from working with my family and just being close with my family. There was always church in our home. We had a lot of family that were either Sunday school teachers or pastors or singers in the church. Every Thursday we had youth, so we were like the kids Sunday school or whatever. On Thursday nights they had that, and then also Sunday they had Sunday school. So I was very involved at a young age in the church. I also had a really good group of friends from a very young age, and we're still friends to this day. There's like 7 of us. Some I met in like kindergarten, some in grade 3, but we're all so connected. Maybe not as connected as we used to be, but once we get together, it's like no time has went by and we can just talk and say whatever. So I'm really thankful that I had that group of friends from a young age. When I was a teenager, I honestly wasn't crazy. I don't know how to word that. I didn't go partying. I didn't do drugs. I might have drank probably too much, but I was usually just hanging out with my boyfriend, which is my husband now. My young teenage years were just me thinking, I want to hang out with my boyfriend. That's it. So, yeah. And then my faith wasn't very strong then. Like, I went to church, but when I went to church, it was more like, oh, I get to see my boyfriend at church and I'm excited to see him and he always looks so handsome and this and that. And like, it wasn't like I had a true faith. Of course, I believed in God and I prayed and everything, but it wasn't really my first priority. I don't want to make this video about, as I say this video is probably going to be a lot filled with cancer related things. I don't want to make it about cancer, but cancer is a part of my past. It's a part of me and it's something that happened. So when I was 17, my period started to get really, really bad to the point where I was having a period for 2 weeks and then 2 weeks off and then 2 weeks on. My mom took me to Emerge. They did a lot of tests. That was the end of 2019. And then 2020, well, we all know what happened in 2020. And my appointments were getting canceled. I was in a lot of pain. I was in the hospital a lot. I just remember being in the hospital so much, like once a week at least. I was on very strong pain medications, like rotating every 2 hours. I could take this one, in 3 hours, I could take this one. And sometimes the pain would just be so bad that I would have to go to the hospital and get painkillers and injections, and I would end up just passing out because I was so exhausted. That was quite a few years of my life like that. Not to that extreme, but the last year in like 2020 was horrible. I practically slept through most of that year, and yeah, at the end of 2020, they called me and they had finally done a DNC. That was the surgery that kept getting canceled. Once they removed what they thought was a polyp or cyst or something, the surgeon called my mom and was like, whatever we removed, it's not that. And yeah, so November of 2020, I got a call saying that it was cancer, and they, scheduled me in for a hysterectomy. Oh, I'm so uncomfortable talking about this, but I do want to make an in-depth video about my cancer story. I can barely tell the details. Like, this is so traumatizing, but I think that's why I just have my Bible open, because I'm like, this will help me. But yeah, after my hysterectomy, I really fell into a depression. It wasn't like a severe depression, but I definitely was not going anywhere just because so many years of I couldn't really do anything. Like, I couldn't go for a walk or sweep a floor or like basic things, bend over and put my shoes on. And I was just so weak from all those years treating my body like I was fragile, because I was. I got all these gifts and stuff from people who had visited me, which I'm so thankful. Like, now I can look back and just be so thankful for that. And what is crazy is that the people who visited me were from the Lighthouse Church where me and my husband go now. There's a group of ladies that came. They brought me a devotion book, which I'm gonna go get it. They got me this devotion book. I'm just so thankful for that. And it's crazy that they were from that church and they came and visited me. And I wasn't even from that church. I was from a conservative Mennonite church at the time. But they, gave me these gifts. After a few months after my surgery, my hysterectomy, I ended up getting an infection, and that took a long time to heal, and I had a drain. Everything about that was just very triggering, and I didn't want to look at anything I had gotten. I mean, I was mad. I was mad at God. I can honestly say that. I remember I was in the dining room, and everyone else in the house, I don't know where they were. I think that it was asparagus season, so it might have been May-ish. And everyone else was at the farm, at the asparagus field. I was just so mad. Like, what is my life? I was 19 at the time. I had dreamt of having a family one day, and now I would never. And I know now, like, adoption and stuff, but then I just was in such a dark place where I'm like, I can never have a family. I went through all this pain. I'm traumatized. I'm so mad. And this is one of the books where I was like, Jesus is not calling. And I went to throw it out, but instead, I don't know what this is God. Actually, I do know what. This was God. I opened it up, and this, actually, I'll put it on the screen. The quote here, it says, "He is safe because he trusts the Lord." Psalm 112 verse 7. And I remember just standing there in the dining room, above the garbage can, because I was literally going to throw it out. I just thought, I am safe. I closed it, and in that moment, I had grew up knowing God and loving God. I had just been straying away a lot because those years were so painful. And this saved me, I believe. I'm gonna talk about more trials that I went through, but this was definitely when I was saved. And I was like, yeah, Jesus is here for me. And I'm okay. That was amazing. Just that moment, truly a gift from God. After that, I got a job at a summer camp. Ended up needing another surgery. They had to remove a fallopian tube because they had stitched it in the wrong place and things were pulling. So, yeah, I had to go in and get another surgery, which was unnecessary. Like, if they hadn't done that, but I had to go in, get another surgery, get the fallopian tube removed, and it was a pretty minor surgery. So I was back at work like 5 days after. That job at the summer camp was a Christian summer camp, and it was really fun. I'm glad I did that. After that, I got a job at a restaurant. Not a very good place. I think all restaurants, they're kind of chaotic and just kind of toxic. I think everyone that I've talked to who has worked at a restaurant says the same thing. So I think it's like an all restaurant type of thing, unless you have really good workers and really good management. Yeah, I don't know. But the one girl that I met there, I remember when I first saw her, I don't know why girls do this, but like she was just so beautiful, and like I'm like there's no way she's nice. It's crazy, but then she talked to me and she just talked with such grace. She always would add, like, how blessed we are with this and that, and how God is doing this in our lives. And yeah, I really loved it when I worked with her, which I didn't get to work with her very often just because she was in school. But um that was when I'm like, you know what? I want to grow in my faith because of her knowledge of the Bible and such. I was like, I want to be like that. Like, I want to be able to talk to someone and be like that. Me and Corny, we decided to get baptized. In the Mennonite church, you can't get married unless you get baptized. I also wanted to get married, and but like that wasn't the only, I think that was a part of why I wanted to get baptized. I got baptized in June of 2022 and then married November of 2022. Just enjoy being married, and I was still working at the restaurant. And then 2023, I had another surgery. So when I had my hysterectomy, it was a partial hysterectomy. It was my uterus, my cervix, and then a lymph node or two lymph nodes. And then in October of 2023, I had my left ovary removed because I have endometriosis. And like, can I get a break? So, endometriosis had kind of took over the ovary. Like, there was no ovary left. And so I got that removed, and then 2024 was the hardest year. I can honestly say it was, for me, I feel like it was harder than all of that cancer stuff that I went through. And, but it was also the year that my faith grew the most, which is crazy. So, April of 2024, the restaurant that I worked at, it closed down, and I became so severely depressed. Yeah, it was not good. And I couldn't do anything throughout the day. I was just at home. I was trying to help my parents on the farm with the asparagus, but I was so depressed. I was just crying all the time. It was uncontrollable. I couldn't talk about anything without bawling my eyes out. I was having so much anxiety that I was almost passing out, just standing doing the dishes. It would come on and I would almost pass out from it. I'd have to sit down, and that just made it worse. I just had so many thoughts of death and how death would be so comforting. And I am so glad that I went to my family doctor. I'm so thankful that I have a family doctor like I do. I honestly didn't know how bad I was struggling just because mental health isn't talked about a lot, and especially in the Mennonite community. It's just not a thing you talk about. I thought that I might have cancer or something just because of almost passing out every day, my heart beating so crazy. I mean, my heart was, over 100 a lot of the times just sitting on the couch. It was 120. It was just anxiety. And so, I went in and I told my doctor. He referred me to a therapist. I wasn't driving then. I could not get behind the wheel. Like, I just couldn't do it. So I wasn't going anywhere. And I'm like, well, there's no way of me getting to this therapist. But the place that he referred me to, they have cars that come and, or they have people that drive and come and pick you up. And it's like all free. And, you just have to take that step to get help. I was also drinking so much. I didn't know it, but I was trying to hide the pain that I was in. Because once the restaurant closed, it was like everything that I had went through, I finally could sit and think about it, and it was just too much. So yeah, I went to the therapist. I was getting that help. I did go find a Christian counselor. There's a church really close by, and they helped me so much, and that honestly, that was so good. I remember being annoyed at first, like, man, why do we have to pray so much? Like, they're always praying with me in the sessions, and I was a little bit annoyed because I honestly thought, how can God help me? In that moment, that is honestly what I thought. Through all those prayers, I really was healed, and it wasn't, it wasn't like I was healed within an hour or a week or whatever. I was in a very deep depression for about 9 months. So it took a long time. But once I started to get out of that depression, then I started to see Jesus and Him helping me. I know people are not for antidepressants, but that really helped me. If I hadn't have had depressants, and like I had to try a few to get the right one, but I wasn't even able to talk about what, like, I would just blurt out things that I was going through, or, I was just traumatized by everything, and I couldn't even talk regularly. Like, I was just bawling my eyes out all the time. If I hadn't gotten all of that help, I don't know where I would be, but I'm so thankful that I did get help. One thing that I'm really proud of from 2024 is I read the whole Bible. If I can link it below, I will. Um, Kanoy Gibson, the Bible 365. I just listened to her videos, and I read through the whole Bible in a year. Like, almost every single day, I would read my Bible. Even though I was struggling so much and I wasn't sure where God was and I felt so lonely, I still was in the Word every day. And by the end of the year, when I was starting to get out of that depression, it was such a blessing. And this year, I wanted to start all over. It was so exciting to me that I finished the Bible and I wanted to start all over. And my faith has been growing so much. Also, a big thing that happened is me and my husband started going to a different church, and that was crazy. Had so much anxiety for what people would say and think that we were leaving the church. I feel like sometimes people are more invested in staying at the church than, if you're growing in faith or what are you getting out of it? I wasn't getting anything because I don't speak German. So, I got baptized there. I was allowed to read the catechism, which it's a book that you have to read when you get baptized in front of the church. And I was allowed to read that in English, but like all the services and everything is in German. And I grew up in an English speaking home. My parents, they know German. I'm pretty dyslexic, and it's really hard for me to learn new things. I really struggled in school, and I was always with an EA or like the assistant, and that was really hard for me. So learning a whole nother language just to know the word of God was crazy. Like, I can't even, it's too crazy for me. So my husband, he didn't want to go somewhere else at first, and I prayed about it. The girl that I talked about that I was working with at the restaurant, the one that was um so filled with the Holy Spirit, she had actually told me, like, don't force him, just pray for him. And that's what I did. And he came to me on his own and was like, you know what, I I want to go there because I can see I don't want to hold you back in your faith. And so we started going to the lighthouse. It's been amazing. It honestly has. I met a group of women there and they are so godly. It's awesome. I'm happy that I got to share this with you guys. God is so good.